said a sweater was a bad choice. That's what Rick said.
I'm thinking the same. What are we? Windows. I don't dare say for no control. That's the problem.
I'm waiting for feedback in 7. It's excruciating. Meeting called to order. The time is 7 p.m. Public portion of the meeting begins. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the rights of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of the public body at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the business administrator board secretary has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, communicated to the Herald News, the Record, and filed with the clerk of the Borough of Hawthorne. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cart?
Here.
Mr. Clavijo?
Here.
Ms. Ehrentraut?
Here.
Dr. Morell?
Here.
Mr. Palouse?
Here.
Mr. Raisher?
Here.
Mr. Shortway?
Here.
Mrs. Goff?
Here. Please join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Meeting regulations. During each regular meeting, 2 opportunities are provided for citizens to ask questions and to make comments. During the first opportunity early on the agenda, the meeting is open to the public for the purpose of addressing items listed for approval on this agenda only. The second opportunity occurs just prior to adjournment, when citizens may address any subject matter that is pertinent to and/or directly related to the operation of the school district. Persons wishing to speak must, upon being recognized, rise, state their name, address, and subject matter. Comments and questions shall be addressed to the board president or the presiding officer and shall be limited to 5 minutes per person. The board may or may not respond to issues raised by members of the public at the time they are raised, but will provide a response if and when appropriate. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of others when speaking. Please note that the board will not respond to comments regarding students or board employees in light of the privacy rights held by those individuals. Moreover, the board discourages comments about such individuals and will not be responsible for such comments. Members of the public who choose to speak during this public session should carefully consider their comments, since they could be held personally liable for any statements they make. Finally, please note that in accordance with district policy, the board will not officially comment on or respond to any matter mentioned unless it can confirm that the matter has first been brought to attention of the appropriate school personnel in an attempt to resolve the issue. Public be heard agenda items only. Seeing as no one has approached for public comment, approval of the minutes dated February 15th, 2022.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Carr, second by Mr. Clavijo. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Cart?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Ms. Ehrentraut?
Yes.
Dr. Morell?
Yes.
Mr. Palouse?
Abstain.
Mr. Raisher?
Yes.
Mr. Shortway?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes. Correspondence. Don't believe we have anything? Okay. It was blank. I didn't know what that meant. Presentations. We have with us in person, which we were not able to do last year, Mr. Swisher of Suppley, Clooney and Company with our audit.
Good evening. I'm here to present the fiscal year 2021 annual comprehensive finance report and also your auditor's manager report for the 3rd year in a row. I'm late being here. Usually we do this in November, December, but for the 3rd year in a row, the state of New Jersey was late getting us certain information that belongs in the annual financial report. So unfortunately, it's not like a broken record, but we're at their mercy. So that's why you're seeing me in March instead of December. The first report I'd like to talk about is the comprehensive financial report. That's where your financial statements are, your note disclosures, and subsidiary schedules the Department of Education requires us to put into the audit report. That information comes from the business office, and in this report we have our opinion on those financial statements. Generally, this school district gets one of 2 opinions, either a modified opinion or an unmodified opinion. modified opinion would be if you had any issues with any numbers in there, any disclosures, or any of the notes that were in the report. An unmodified opinion would be if we had no issues at all. I'm happy to report, once again, that the district has an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion, which means that the financial statements are fairly stated. Fiscally, the district is in good shape once again. You're able to increase both your capital reserve and your maintenance reserve. Your capital reserve you use to spend on capital projects, and your maintenance reserve to maintain your building. So fiscally, you're in good shape. The second report I'd like to talk about is the smaller of the two reports. That's the auditor's management report. That's a separate report the state of New Jersey requires us to do. And in there, they have us look at certain areas like your student activities, your cafeteria, your application for state school aid, things like that. And if we have any findings or recommendations, we would list those out in this report. This year, we did have one finding and recommendation that I just want to read into the record and talk about briefly. You can find it on page 6 of the small report. It deals with your cafeteria operation. The finding is that the net cash resources exceeded 3 months' average expenditures. The recommendation is appropriate action be taken to ensure that all net cash resources of the food service fund do not exceed 3 months' average expenditures. Basically, what happens is the Department of Agriculture doesn't want districts having too much money around. They provide, they pay for the cost of your meals, and they don't want you to have too much money around. The main avenue to alleviate this would be to charge a lower lunch price. You cannot do that because now lunches are for free. So it's a kind of a catch-22 that they don't want you to have too much money, but you don't really have an alternative besides except maybe spending more money, maybe improving the cafeteria, or if there's costs available that are paid out of the operating budget, you can transfer those over there. A lot of our districts have this problem because all lunches are paid in full now, as opposed to in the past we had some that were reduced price. Now every district's getting all lunches paid in full, so fund balance is up, but they don't want you to have too much of it. So you have to say your alternatives are lower lunch price, which you can't do, or spend more money on your cafeteria operations or transfer expenditures over. So I believe you're going to be passing a corrective action plan later tonight to address this. That was the only finding recommendation we have in the report. Is there any other questions anybody has on either of the two reports?
Thank you, Mr. Swisher.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Reports, Student Council Representative Report, Angela?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. To celebrate Read Across America, student council members visited Roosevelt School on March 1st to read books to the students. We enjoyed reading to the kids and will be visiting Jefferson School on March 25th to read to them as well, so we are looking forward to that. One of our clubs at Hawthorne High School, Share, led by Mr. DiLeonardo, does its best to help out the community. Share will be holding a Make Me Smile collection of items for Maple Glen Nursing Home to support local community needs from March 21st to April 11th. Items being collected are books, magazines, tissues, hand creams, snacks, notepads, etc. If you would like to donate items, please reach out to a Share Club member or contact Mr. DiLeonardo. The winter sports season has ended and spring sports practices have already started. Boys basketball closed out their season with an 8-10 record, winning 4 of their last 5 games. Girls basketball closed out their season with a 13-11 record. They won their last 5 games of the regular season, which helped secure them a spot in the state tournament. The wrestling team found success at the 2022 Passaic County Tournament. The team was paced by a top 8 finish by Adam Hadabe, 4th place finishes by Hudson Testa and Eddie O'Hagan, 3rd place finishes by Caleb Ambrose and Cormac Smith, 2nd place finishes by Ashton Navarrete and Andrew Marzetta, and a 1st place finish by 2022 Passaic County champion Brandon Massey. The Bears were the highest placing Group 1 school in the tournament and finished in 4th place overall out of all Passaic County high schools. Ashton Navarrete became Hawthorne's first District 3 champion since 2017 at 165 pounds, and Andrew Marzetta secured 2nd place at 215 pounds, qualifying both of them for the 2022 NJSIAA State Championship in Atlantic City. Ashton finished his season as one of the top 32 wrestlers, competing at 165 pounds in the state. Andrew Marzetta wrestled deep into the tournament to finish his season as one of the top 16 wrestlers, competing at 215 pounds in the state of New Jersey this year. The Bears finished in 71st place overall out of all high schools in the state of New Jersey. Congratulations to the HHS indoor track program who finished its season with 2 athletes competing at the Meet of Champions. Leah Alves finished top 25 in the state in the 55-meter hurdle. Jason Harmer placed 9th overall in the 1600 meter. He ran a school record of 4 minutes and 18 seconds, making him our first athlete to run under 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Jason competed this past weekend at the Nike Indoor Nationals in New York City. He ran a personal record of 1 minute and 57 seconds in the 800 and a 4 minute 18 second in the mile. Impressive times by the Bucknell track and field commit. Great job to our winter sports athletes. Winter sports awards were held last night in the auditorium to celebrate our athletes. The High School Library Media Center will highlight 3 important national events this month: Women's History Month, Irish Heritage Month, and Social and Emotional Learning Day. For each theme, the library offers faculty instructional materials and resources and engages students with library book displays and bulletin boards, informational materials, daily morning announcements, posted flyers, social media postings, and relevant books on our pop-up library that moves around the school. This month, the library has created the Ukraine Information Center, which displays a globe, maps, books, articles, and fast fact handouts to help our students better understand the history of the Russia and Ukraine conflict, as well as daily updates on the current war. Resources and classroom lessons have been distributed to all teachers. During the week of March 14th, the library is spearheading our Reach Out to Ukraine Week, which includes a collection drive of non-perishable foods, clothing, and medical supplies that will be delivered by English teacher Daria Kotlachuk, who is of Ukrainian heritage, to area Ukrainian churches for overseas transport. On Friday, March 18th, students, faculty, and staff will wear blue and yellow in a show of support for Ukraine. Once again, the library's March Madness, promoting reading and book discussions and debate with 16 books competing in 4 brackets. Students and faculty vote each week in March for their favorites until we come down to the one favorite book. Each vote gives a student a raffle ticket for a $25 Amazon gift card. Each week, the library features one special book. This week, the focus is on the book, The Scholarship Playbook for Parents of Athletes, written by Hawthorne High School's own Dr. Simone Edwards. That's all I have to report for March.
Thank you, Angela. Again, I appreciate everything I can get from you because I don't get a whole lot from my own child at home, so it's always lovely to hear it for the first time here. Mr. Sprito, your superintendent.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so a few things to share, and I'll piggyback on some of what Angela talked about. I want to start with Social Emotional Learning Day, which was on March 11th. You know, I have to commend Ms. Wegert for the many different programs and activities that take place throughout the district. In our elementary schools, she provided activities, a choice board for our elementary students, different activities that took place during that week of March 11th. We also had activities and different events each day at our middle school and high school. And again, I have to thank Ms. Wegert and the guidance department for putting together those activities and sharing them out throughout the district. I also, again, as Angela mentioned, I want to piggyback on what she shared with Mrs. DiLeonardo. There's so many, Mrs. DiLeonardo, our media specialist at Hawthorne High School, does such a great job of providing resources and materials, not only for our students, but our staff, for all different events throughout the year. This is just one example, and Angela mentioned a few others, you know, in regards to Women's History Month and Irish Heritage Month, as well as Social Emotional Learning Day. So I want to thank Ms. Wegert and Mrs. DiLeonardo for doing a great job providing those materials and activities for our students. Angela also mentioned Read Across America celebrations, which are taking place throughout the district. Angela mentioned that some of our high school students had the opportunity to read at Roosevelt and now going up to Jefferson. I personally had the opportunity to read to a class up at Washington School, and I'll be reading to 2 classes up at Jefferson School next week. So it's really, for me, it's a lot of fun. I get to go up and sit with students and be in a classroom for a little while, so it's great. I know the students enjoy reading to the younger students at the elementary schools, and I know the young students enjoy having those high school students come down and share some books with them. So it's a great opportunity to kind of get into our classrooms and meet with students. And I would encourage everybody to stay tuned. Obviously, that each school is providing information about the different activities that are taking place. So, you know, stay tuned to your weekly announcements in the district and the school websites. They'll be providing some information. In regard to our referendum update, I just want to share, I'm going to steal a little bit of Mr. Carr's thunder for the B&G report, but I just want to continue to just update our community about things that are happening in regards to the referendum that was passed back in September of 2019. So we've done a lot of work so far. That work is continuing. This year, I'm sure you've noticed all the window replacements in all of our schools. was all part of the referendum. I think the windows look fantastic. I can tell you what a difference it's made in terms of maintaining the heat in those rooms. Actually, some of the teachers were complaining it's too hot in some of those classrooms now. But between the boiler replacements and the new windows, it's definitely going to make a difference in our energy costs in our schools. So we are excited about that, and obviously the aesthetics of the building, it looks fantastic. So we're really excited about those window installation. The windows themselves are complete. They are now in the process of just going around and installing the interior window shades in all of the schools. We are in the midst of replacing our interior classroom doors. That was another piece of the referendum that was, it was really, obviously, again, it helps with aesthetics. Some of the doors in our schools are old, but more importantly, it helps with our security. We've provided, new doors in all of our schools. Obviously, we're not done yet. Jefferson School, they've been installed. They're working at the high school right now, and then they'll, that's kind of how we handle it. We'll move from school to school until everything is complete. But they look great. Again, they'll provide additional security in all of our schools, so we're excited about that addition as well. We are also scheduled, and we approved, I believe last month, we approved the bid to begin our upgrade to our fire alarm systems, and that's going to be happening later this year. And then this summer, we are scheduled to begin renovating 2 of our 5 science labs at Hawthorne High School, with the other 3 scheduled for next summer, not this coming summer, but a year from this summer. Well, this summer we'll also be renovating our art room and band room at Hawthorne High School. So a lot of great things ahead for our students. These new spaces are wonderful. Obviously, at the high school we've already renovated our culinary room and our STEM lab, as well as another science lab downstairs. So again, this summer it's 2 science labs, art room, band room, and then a year from this summer will be the other 3 science labs, and our media center will also be renovated as well. So a lot of great things still to come. We're excited about these renovations because they do benefit all of our students at our high school. And again, we've had other projects. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but I would encourage everyone to visit our website. There's a referendum tab right on the middle of our district website, and there are pictures from every project that's already happened. And as we renovate these new rooms, I'll continue to add pictures to that site. But right under the referendum tab on our district website, there's a whole tab with pictures, and there's every project that we've completed so far. So please take a look if you get a chance. Okay, in terms of some events, Angela just mentioned we had our Winter Sports Awards last night. It was a nice event, nice to see everyone back in person and seeing people's smiling faces, which is nice. I also will share that our broadcasting class put together a great highlight video, which I shared on our social media accounts today, on our Facebook page and on my Twitter account. It's a great little video put together by our students in Hawthorne High School in our broadcasting class. So I encourage you to take a look at our Facebook page and my Twitter account. It's there for you to view. But again, just want to compliment our winter sport athletes. I know, the last 2 years have been tough for our athletes. Having quarantine and, not getting as many practices or as many games as we're used to. So it's tough to get into a routine, but our kids and our coaches have done a great job of kind of navigating those challenges and keeping our kids on the court and in the bowling alley and on the track and all the different sports that we have in the winter. So I just want to commend all of our winter sports student athletes and coaches. And Angela mentioned, I'm glad she did, all the students. We have a lot of students who received some really nice honors this year and really achieved at a very high level. She mentioned Ashton and Andrew and Jason and Leah. I can tell you, amazing what some of our students have done. But not just those students, there's others who had great seasons. But I want to commend all of them for a great winter season. And obviously, we're excited about the spring season. The spring season has begun. I'm hoping that the weather will stabilize. We go from 60 degrees to snowing to 60, 70 degrees. So hopefully the weather will stabilize. We'll get our kids outside on the field, on the track, baseball, softball, our track team, our golf team, all the teams that we have going on in spring. And let's not forget about our flag football team, which is competing this spring as well. They've already started practicing. So excited to see them play. Their first game actually is on April 5th. Unfortunately, it's at Harrison High School. It's away, but they'll be playing as well on our field in the coming months. So we're excited about the spring season. The other thing I'll just mention, we're obviously back to our in-person events and a lot of events coming up. We have our HHS World Language Induction Ceremony on March 31st, our National Honor Society Induction Ceremony April 7th, and of course our high school spring musical on the end of April, April 28th through May 1st, and we will be reinstituting our dinner to show for our senior citizens, which we've done in years past. Unfortunately, we've had to kind of hold off on that the last couple of years, but we're excited to offer that again. Basically what we do is we invite our senior citizens to come to our dress rehearsal on Wednesday night, and they have some dinner, and then they go watch the play. So, great thing. And the other thing we're going to be doing this year is we're actually going to be bringing our elementary students up to the high school to have them view the play. It's High School Musical this year, I believe that's High School Musical. So the elementary students and fifth graders will be coming up to the high school to view that during the day as well at the end of April. And I believe that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spolito. Curriculum and instruction, Mr. Reicher.
Thank you, Mrs. Goff. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Curriculum and Instruction recommend the following resolutions: CI 1 through CI 3 on page 3, CI 4 through CI 10 on page 4, and CI 11 on page 5. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Second by Mr. Palouse. Any discussion?
Just a quick comment that it's great to see these back again. The senior trip to Dorney Park, the band's going to Virginia,
Yes.
all these things starting to get back into play along with academics. That's what makes it special, all these different events that students look forward to. So it's good to see them all starting to come back.
Thank you, Mr. Reicher. Anybody else? Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Erentraut,
Yes.
Dr. Morel,
Yes.
Mr. Palouse,
Yes.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Mr. Shortway,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mrs. Goff.
Yes. Personnel, Ms. Aaron.
Thank you, Mrs. Goff. The following resolutions are pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools. P1 and P2 on page 5, P3 through P17 on page 6, P18 through P21 on page 7. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Second by Dr. Morel. Any discussion?
One comment, I guess. Congratulations to Mr. Spolito on the renewed contract.
Long overdue. I'm sure Mr. Palouse has more to say about it, but it had been an ongoing discussion and attempted to be tied up earlier, but
Well, we're here now.
we're here now. Right.
Congratulations to the board and the community for having
Correct.
this burrito. So, it's been a pleasure for us to have you here.
I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to continuing our work here together in Hawthorne. So thank you. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Erentraut,
Yes.
Dr. Morel,
Yes.
Mr. Palouse,
Yes.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Mr. Shortway,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Mrs. Goff.
Yes. Finance and Administration, Mr. Clavijo.
Thank you, Madam President. Action items pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Finance and Administration recommends the following resolutions on page 8, F1 through A1, on page 9, A2 through A4. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Sorry about that. I didn't catch you seconded it.
Sure.
Mr. Shortway. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Morel,
Yes.
Mr. Palouse,
Yes.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Mr. Shortway,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Erentraut,
Yes.
Mrs. Goff.
Yes. Sorry guys, we're working out a little bit of a snag up here. Claims, Mr. Shortway.
Thank you, Madam President. CL-1, page 9.
You can read the whole thing. You can read the whole thing, Mr. Shortway.
Oh, in accordance with the NJAC 6A 23-2, 11B, C3, and C4. Approval of the March 2022 bill list. It is recommended that the board approve the bill list for the month of March 2022.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Clavijo. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Kalous?
Yes.
Mr. Raisher?
Yes.
Mr. Shortway?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Ms. Erentraut?
Yes.
Dr. Morel?
yes,
Mrs. Goff?
Yes.
Yeah, we can go back.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Buildings and grounds, Mr. Carr.
Thank you, Madam President. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Buildings and Grounds recommends the following resolutions. BG1 on page 9. BG2 on page 10 through BG5. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Erentraut. Any discussion? I, for one, am excited to see that someone will be using our auditorium now that it is air conditioned. So the word will get out that possibly that's a source of revenue. Newly air conditioned auditorium if anybody has any events that they'd like to hold there. It's good to see people back in the schools, as Mr. Reisher said earlier. Roll call, please.
Mr. Raisher?
Yes.
Mr. Shortway?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Ms. Erentraut?
Yes.
Dr. Morel?
yes,
Mr. Kalous?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes. Policy, Dr. Morel.
pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Policy recommends the following resolutions. PO1 and PO2 on page 11. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Second by Mr. Carr. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Shortway?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Ms. Erentraut?
Yes.
Dr. Morel?
Yes,
Mr. Kalous?
Yes.
Mr. Raisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes.
So before we go to committee reports, if I could make a suggestion or a request. So going back to finance administration, it looks like there were 3 HIBs that we discussed last month that were omitted from the agenda. It's the high school, HIBs 5, 6, and 7. So it would have to be A5 would be for HIB 5, A6 would be for HIB 6, and A7 for HIB 7, all high school. So if we could add those as a resolution to approve tonight. Is that-
Yeah, so I think you would just do it as a walk-in resolution to approve those 3. Which the committee is, if the board is accepting that.
So these are on 5, 6, and 7. So it would be A5 for HIB 5, A6 for HIB 6, A7 for HIB 7, and they're all high school.
So do we need Mr. Clavijo to
Sure.
move?
Yeah,
So we will have a motion to move on behalf of the committee, I move to move A5, A6, A7, which are HIB at the high school.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Kalous. Any discussion?
yes, I just need clarity on this. Would these reports be relevant to what was provided to the board in
Last
our,
month.
from last month?
last month.
Got it,
Last
not
month.
the new one we got,
No.
last month, okay.
It was omitted on the agenda. They should have been for final approval on this agenda.
Okay.
But they were reported last month in exec.
Okay, yes, I remember those conversations.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the clarity.
No problem. My apologies.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Shortway?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Ms. Erentraut?
Yes.
Dr. Morel?
Yes,
Mr. Kalous?
Yes.
Mr. Raisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Abstain on A5 and A6. Yes to A7. Okay. Committee and liaison reports. Mr. Carr, Buildings and Grounds and Legislative.
Thank you, Madam President. The Buildings and Grounds Committee did not meet for the month of March. However, Mr. Sprito did touch base on a couple of items that have been addressed. The district door update, obviously, Jefferson School interior door installations have been completed, and they're now working at the high school. And as far as the district fire alarm system, the fire alarm kickoff meeting was held on March 3rd for the district-wide fire alarm upgrade. And as far as legislative is concerned, on March 3rd, Governor Murphy approved legislation that will give parents and school districts additional time to settle any disputes concerning the provision of special education services while schools were providing instruction in a predominantly remote or hybrid environment due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The extra time is intended to provide parents and school districts with additional time to work out new learning plans for their children with the goal of avoiding the need to file for a due process hearing with the state's Office of Administrative Law. Assembly Bill 1281 and Senate Bill 905 extends the period of time for filing special education due process petitions related to COVID-19 and COVID-19 school closures in periods of virtual, remote, hybrid, or in-person instruction. Currently, parents have 2 years to file a due process petition with the Office of Administrative Law. This bill would allow a parent, guardian, or a local education agency to file a request for a due process hearing at any time prior to September 1st, 2023, regarding the identification, evaluation, educational placement, or the provision of a free and appropriate public education of a child with a disability during a COVID-19 school closure or a period of instruction occurring between March 18th, 2020 and September 1st, 2021. This essentially extends the time to file a petition up to approximately 18 months, depending on the date a party knew or should have known about the alleged action that forms the basis for the complainant to file a petition for a due process hearing. The bill also requires each school district to hold an individualized education program team meeting to discuss the need for compensatory education services for every student with a disability who had an IEP at the time between March 18, 2020 and September 1st, 2021. Such a meeting shall occur no later than the end of 2022. A parent would then have until September 1st, 2023 to file for a due process hearing to challenge the determinations of the IEP team. However, if an IEP team meeting regarding compensatory education and services was already held prior to the effective date of this bill, then an additional IEP would not be required unless agreed to by both the parent and the district. In addition, a parent cannot file a claim regarding any matter that has already been resolved pursuant to mediation, settlement agreement, or any other judicial or administrative order. As originally introduced in the previous session, the bill would have extended by 2 years the amount of time that a parent could file a COVID-related due process claim, increasing the statute of limitation for such claims for a total of 4 years. New Jersey School Boards Associations had concerns with the proposal and worked closely with the sponsor and other stakeholders in crafting amendments to the bill, which allowed the associations to support the final version. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. It's so warm in here. I think we're all getting a little loopy. I apologize for the heat. We don't control it. Mr. Clavijo, Council Liaison and Finance and Administration.
Thank you, Madam President. For Council Liaison, the council met earlier this month. There was no crossover topics. They're scheduled to meet tomorrow. For Finance and Administration, we met past Thursday as a committee. Ms. Ambrose went over the preliminary figures for the budget. State aid numbers came in on that day, so just want to thank Ms. Ambrose for her last minute scrambling. We are going to be having a meeting next week on which we're going to review the budget and we will vote on it. Unfortunately, there is a cut list. We did get additional state aid in the amount of $899,704, but as you will hear next week, there are costs outside of our control that strain our budget. But that's it. That's all I have. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Clavijo. We'll pick the date for the meeting at a later time. Okay.
Yeah, we'll discuss that.
Okay. Ms. Erin Trout, Passaic County School Boards Association.
Nothing this month. They had a meeting yesterday, but it was for board presidents. I know Abby had her son's winter sports award ceremony, so I'm not sure if anyone else attended, but that's it for this month.
Thank you, Ms. Erin Trout. As far as New Jersey School Boards Association, just a reminder to the board that next month, the meeting on the 12th of April, we will start at 6 p.m. It will be a work session with Kathy Hellewell from New Jersey School Boards. Tentative topic was ethics and Robert's rules, just general, introductory stuff, and then she can definitely field any questions that we may have. I had also put on her radar that we would like to renew the strategic plan. So she will probably talk to us about a timeline for that as well. So 6 p.m. And then our regular meeting will start after that. Policy, Dr. Morrell?
Yes, thank you. Policy committee did meet. You saw that two of the policies that were forwarded today on the agenda was where our primary focus was regarding the road forward policy. Really, that policy, the only thing that was changed was Appendix C and L. C relates to the fact that the district is mask optional, and at the superintendent's discretion, can reinstate the mask depending upon the conditions and increased cases of COVID. And then Appendix L was also revised, where specifically regarding travel only relates to international travel. Everything else in that policy remained the same. And then as far as the board committees, we revised a section of our board bylaw to better reflect our standing committees and implement regulations that help to explain the focus of each committee. And we're still in the process of discussing our social media use policy. It's a bylaw specifically to board members and the use of social media networks. That is a policy that is still being discussed. That ends my policy report.
Thank you, Dr. Morrell. Mr. Palouse, have CPAC and PTO.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight I just have a quick update for the Ed Foundation. The Ed Foundation will be sponsoring Pictures in the Park Day on Saturday, April 30th. Photos will be taken by photography by Renee. This is a great time to get your family together and capture a beautiful moment. Art in the Park is on the same day, but it will be in a different location. And HEF is also planning to sponsor a fundraising night at Board and Brush in Ramsey on May 13th. Seating is limited for this, so sign-ups will be on a first-come, first-served basis. And more details will be forthcoming on the Facebook page and also on the Hawthorne Education website. And if anybody would like to get involved with the Ed Foundation, please reach out to Jennifer Doyle at hawthorneedfoundation@gmail.com. I just want to add a few things because prior to my stint here on the board, I actually helped with the Ed Foundation. It's one of those foundations where they kind of come and go. You know, you get a lot of support for a while, and then as some people age out, the younger parents don't know about it. So if we can kind of get the word out and understand what the Ed Foundation is all about. It's similar to a PTO, but instead of being focused on your specific school, it's really for the entire district. In the past, we were able to give out two $1,000 scholarships and support teachers in classrooms. So each teacher would put in a request, and then the Ed Foundation would choose who can get a little bit of our fundraising donations and support the classroom. So it's really an organization that's for the entire district. So if anybody has the opportunity to donate some time, again, reach out to Jennifer Doyle, who's currently running it at hawthorneedfoundation@gmail.com. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Palouse. Mr. Reicher, curriculum and instruction.
We have no report because we got a report on the budget, so there was no curriculum instruction.
I'm upset.
It will be fun. No, we didn't meet. We just got briefed on the budget, so curriculum instruction did not meet. So there's nothing to report.
Thank you, Mr. Reicher. Public be heard. Please remember to state your name and your address, and there's, I believe, a pad up there for you to write in.
It is warm in here.
It's very warm.
Ed Costello, 300 Florence Ave, Hawthorne, New Jersey. What sign is it?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
please. You can do it out.
Yeah. So the count is my 5 minutes.
No.
No.
Just want to make sure. I got guess everybody's tired of seeing me, but I'm back here again for the third time to talk about the co-op program. I know that the school got the package together and basically cut to the chase. We have 2 days to make a decision. So can I get an update, or should I go through my whole jargon?
So I'll just share with you what we did in, and over the since our last meeting,
Okay.
just to give you an idea of what we've been working on, and my conversations with Lakeland. So I want you to know that, obviously, I appreciate the way you've handled this personally. I want to start by saying that, sometimes we get people that come and you want to yell and scream, but I appreciate the way you've come here and handled this, have these conversations with us. And I can tell you that what we've done over the last month is we've been talking to other districts. I spoke to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different districts that co-op, just to get an idea of costs and how it works and logistics and all that, right? So again, I want you to know that I didn't just ignore what you've been coming and talking about.
You would be the first one, so it's okay.
No, but we did. And it's something we've looked into. We have had conversation with Lakeland. I can tell you that the original proposal was changed yesterday. I believe the email came out yesterday. What they originally told us it was going to be has now changed for the better. They originally had told us that there would be a cost to our parents as well as transportation to all practice and games. Parents would be responsible for that. As of today, there is no cost. So that was just updated literally yesterday by their athletic director, and that was confirmed by their superintendent who I spoke to. So again, I just want you to know that we didn't ignore what you've talked to us about. We have looked into it. The other thing I'll just add is, and I'm going to give the board an opportunity to comment, obviously they can share with their thoughts, is that even if the board does approve this, there's no guarantee that it will happen. And I say that because if you've had a chance to look on the NJSIA website, there are certain bylaws and certain procedures that Lakeland, as the host school, will have to go through. They'll have to get approval from the league. They'll have to get approval from the NJSIA. It also talks about, and I just want to reference this, it says that these opportunities for participation, the purpose of these co-op programs is to provide opportunities for participation when none would otherwise exist, as for instance, when a school lacks a particular program or when a school has declining enrollment in a particular program. Under no circumstances is a co-op to be used for purposes of creating a stronger, more competitive team. Again, I don't know all the details of Lakeland. I know that their JV program is struggling a little bit, from what I understand, and that's just from speaking with their superintendent. It also talks about, and I don't want to rehash it, but it talks about how it will have to be approved by the league. And obviously we're in different leagues, so they, as the host school, would have to get approved from their league. And then the other thing it talks about here is just that it's a 2-year period. A co-op program is for a 2-year period with an automatic 2-year renewal. Written notification of automatic renewal must be submitted by sport-specific deadline. So again, I only share that. It's not my opinion. I'm just sharing what the co-op committee states, what the guidelines state.
This is a deal already that I covered up. They had this deal already because they have another school that they're going to go in. And
I'm aware. Yeah, I'm aware that there's another
all
school.
The groundwork has basically been set.
Totally
It's
understand.
either us or it's going to be another Passaic County.
Right. No.
Just
It's
looking,
actually a Bergen County school.
What?
It's a Bergen County school.
One's Bergen, the other one's going to be
Yes.
Passaic.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But
I guess everybody's in the same boat.
yeah. No. Listen, I get it, and I just wanted you to know that I didn't ignore. That you came here and we just.
I'm kidding with you, you know that.
No, I know, but I think it's important that you know that we did spend some time looking into this, and I did update the board on all that information in terms of what the other co-ops do, how they, what the costs are to the district.
Right.
The other thing I just want to share, and this is the last thing, and then I'll stop talking. The other thing that we have to consider, when I say we, the board and the district, is we've had other requests for other sports from our own students in-house. Things like men's volleyball, things like cross country. I can't think of the other one we talked about. Tennis, thank you, boys tennis. So, thank you. So we've had requests for other sports. So as a district, we just have to decide, nothing against hockey, but we just have to decide what we feel is best for the district overall. So, and our students, obviously. So that's, you know,
But
again,
are those requests for a co-op program or?
no,
standard
no, no,
program?
those are internal requests from our students here in the district to have those programs. So, again, you know, we just, again, I just want you to understand the process that we go through. It's not something we haven't talked about, we have. And again, I've shared all of this with the board, so the board is aware about all this. So, and I'll
So I was gonna say, so we basically have 2 days, and then, you know, the cycle's over. Do we have a decision, or?
I guess I'll speak.
Go ahead.
This is the first time we've met publicly together, and that's when the discussion would happen. This is something we have to have as a public discussion. We can only talk in private about like personnel and things like that. So this is really the first opportunity that we've had with all of the information gathered that Mr. Sprito put together and Mr. Rizak, which I'm very appreciative of. So would this be an appropriate time to?
Yeah, sure.
Do you want me to step backwards?
No, is there anything else you'd like to say
No, I
before?
just as a reminder, and again, you know, I appreciate everybody showing up. It's not for me, trust me. And again, you knew the reason that we picked up Passaic, and I'll be very frank with you. I had 2 people approach me, both of them played hockey for me. Paramus is dying as an ice hockey team, and they came, and it just didn't make sense for me, because I had to pay, I shouldn't say me, for us to pay for the bus. It didn't make sense. They weren't willing to give us any discounts or anything for the first 2 years just to see how everything worked out. Lakeland was a nice choice. He's a great coach up there. Obviously, the AD is a Hawthorne guy, living up there now, and he knows the family down here. And like he says, I'm not supposed to mention his name, so I won't, but I mean, it's a perfect match for us, and it's a co-op program that maybe down the road you may want to do for tennis or cross country. Actually, he told me his cross country team is very good, and he's always looking for more people. Irrelevant facts, but I mean, you know, the cards seem to be aligned, and I'm just hopeful that you understand that they don't align that often. So, you know, I appreciate the time, and I'll sit down and listen to what you have to say. I can jump back up, Ken.
Point of order to Madam to Madam President.
Yes, Ms. Dr. Moore.
We are in the public section comments, so discussion, I believe, should be held either new business or old business and not this
Thank
part
you,
now.
Dr. Morrell. Would anybody else wish to speak before we discuss?
Madam President, Superintendent Sprito, board members. My name is Jack Tankos, 101 7th Avenue. I have a junior in the high school presently. I'd like to take you back to the holiday season of 2014, a time when my son Kevin was 9 years old and was first exposed to hockey. It was a time when you'd be frequently found by my wife and I spending time in the driveway practicing with mops and a soda can. He learned to ice skate during the spring of 2015, and one day in July of that year, he came to me seeking permission to utilize some of his allowance on a garage sale down the street. I cautioned him not to waste his money. He returned beaming with excitement over the purchase he had made. A pair of inline skates, which they were charging $2 for. But for which he was so excited to have, he insisted they take 5. I'm super grateful for the personal finance program you folks have had. That summer and well through the fall, Kevin spent literally hours every day. Officer Carr probably can attest to that. Practicing, learning how to shoot and stick handle and so on and so forth. His passion for the sport growing every day. His love for the sport growing by leaps and bounds. It's that love that's brought me here and my family here tonight. I'm going to ask you to forgive some of the disjointedness of my comments. They were prepared under slightly different circumstances in spite of the new information. So please bear with me a little bit. What I would say, and I think I'm just sort of echoing what Coach Ed had said, they have an established ice team. Mr. Sprito probably recall that I harassed him back in 2019 as my son was entering high school. Please consider ice hockey. The answer was we've done that before. It's effectively not happening for various reasons. A lot of those barriers to entry are no longer an issue. I'm hard to hear, at least you're entertaining me. I find it interesting and heartening. I mean, I'm here for selfish reasons, my son and his friends that play. Let's be clear, Coach Ed is here in support of every current and future player of the Hawthorne Rec program who would benefit from the ability to play at the high school interscholastic scholastic program. Rec programs offer kids no real opportunity to be looked at by colleges. Rec programs aren't nearly as effective in fostering the tight school community spirit that this district really, really advocates for, pushes for. To give a little more color to this, you, I'm sure, are aware that there's a rink on your high school campus. What you may not be aware of is the fact that it's adorned, that rink fencing is adorned by large placards celebrating, commemorating 17 championships over the past 25 years. 2 more placards are going up soon. Sorry, the teams at the junior and senior level have both won championships within the last 2 weeks. There are over 200, I went down there and counted it today. There are well over 200 names on those boards. Hockey, there has been a very real hunger for a high school hockey program in Hawthorne. I think there is a case to be made that you've lost students and may continue to lose students to PCTI. Not staggering numbers, let's be frank. But for what little cost we're really looking at here, this could save you some money. You save 1 or 2 students from transferring or electing that other program. You're positively impacting your budget. Unlike in previous years, you at this very moment have a glorious and fleeting opportunity to address the need. To echo, I think Coach Ed brought this up at the last meeting. Parents of ice hockey players are used to bearing some fairly high costs, right? We were at a tournament not that long ago. It was like $1,500 to $2,000 out of pocket to participate. Worth every penny. I certainly would have no problem paying out of pocket and fully funding, so the board pays nothing for my child's portion of participation in the Lakeland program. I'd like to be clear, though, this is not about the kids already attending PCTI. The question came up from a former board member. What percentage of the PCTI students currently would come back to Hawthorne if we suddenly participate in the program? That was not a fair question to pose to the coach. He can't offer any assurance on that. And I don't think that question was designed to elucidate any information or further the discussion. I think it was designed to kind of just shut down the discussion. Again, I'm very heartened to hear that you're actually considering this. But again, it's not about the kids who are already attending PCTI. It's fundamentally about the kids that are not. And yes, to some extent, to those 8th graders who are considering, facing the decision to attend next year and every single year thereafter. It's about the kids in the future. And my grandfather always told me, if there's a will, there's a way. And I'd like to think we can find a way here. Especially now, since the circumstances, as I said earlier, before they changed even further, but especially now, since the circumstances around the conversation have changed dramatically in favor of the Hawthorne athletic program from when I first raised this issue years ago. So if I'm proven wrong, I'll come back and apologize to all of you. But if there's no substantive effort to try and really honestly make this happen, I think we're doing a serious disservice to our kids. It's a bit of a slap in the face to the Hawthorne hockey community. But we've got a great opportunity here to do something really meaningful. I think the community is larger than you recognize. And if you want some reassurance, just take a quick stroll down that hill and look at those placards. And remember, there are 2 more yet to be erected. So I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Mr. Tankos, I have a question if you don't mind.
Sure.
Pardon my lack of knowledge. My son plays lacrosse, not hockey. But
Change that.
be careful what you wish for. Is roller hockey the rec portion of
Yes.
what would turn into? So
Well,
majority of those students would play ice
so
hockey?
many of those students already play ice hockey at PCTI and such. So yeah, it would be in addition to. But one of the things that I envision for this program, like we've sat here tonight listening about the sports awards, and there's clear enthusiasm for sports in part, and maybe Ms. Natali can share some insight on it. But I didn't have it growing up. I wasn't athletic. I didn't really feel a sense of belonging in the high school I went to. There's nothing that really was in my wheelhouse. Hockey is most certainly in my son's wheelhouse, and several other children that I know of. I coached the program for 2 years with Coach Ed. I think there's a demonstrable benefit to belonging to a high school team. Rec is great, but belonging to a high school team changes the dynamic. Every morning when you hear "Go Bears," it means something different. And I think it connects the athletic student to the academic side of this entire experience, far more so than the rec program.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Would anybody else wish to speak?
Just support Scott.
Moral support. Understood. Understood. Thank you.
What
for
he
coming.
said.
Okay. Ditto. We'll mark Carrie down for it. So we'll turn it over to general comments and questions from the board related to the school district.
I have something.
Sure.
I wanted to share with the board members that if you log into School Board Association, and once you log in, you go to training and select webinars. I would invite you to view a webinar from March 9th. It is the annual Chief School Administrator Evaluation. We're coming to that point of the year where we need to do an evaluation of Mr. Spirito. I thought that, I actually watched this when they first did the session, but I wanted to share with you because the webinar is up, and so I thought that that might be a good resource for all of us to either A, as a refresher, or for those of us who are new in going to do this for the first time, it may be helpful to kind of see how the school boards, how we should be handling that. So I wanted to share that with my fellow board members.
That's a great suggestion. And if anybody has any questions after watching it, we can certainly ask Ms. Howell when she joins us next month. Any other general comments and questions from the board related to this?
I have just a question or a comment. Could you just repeat the title?
Sure, it's called the Annual CSA Evaluation.
Thank you.
And it's from March 9th, 2022. So go to the website, log in. On the top, it's training, select webinars.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Just have a quick comment. I think it's great how the elementary students are going to go see the play. First time we're doing it, right?
Yes.
That's a fantastic idea.
That is really good.
Second.
Third.
We had also heard from one of the candidates from the high school principal position that we were interviewing that they invited middle school students to the show. So if there's any way we can, make that happen, maybe offer them a reduced price or a free ticket, or if they show their badge, or again, in the effort of retention and just exposing them to what could be. This is a particularly, they love High School Musical. Like, it's very appropriate for that time frame, so.
Spirit of question in regards to that. The middle school's not doing their play anymore at this point, right?
I'm not sure. They have, obviously, last year they tried to do a little bit of a virtual thing. I haven't heard that they're doing anything this year, to be honest.
Yeah.
But they have in the past. They're just hoping to get back to it, to be honest.
And it had some traction.
Yes.
From what I saw,
In fact, Mr. Bruce's daughter participated.
Annie.
That's right, yeah. So, I'll have to talk to Mr. Deborah about that. But, last year they did something virtually, or they kind of put something together.
Obviously, COVID.
Well, that's the reason.
One of the casualties.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's impacted it, but I'll talk to her about it.
But that whole, uniting, students on a project like that would be, a great opportunity. And again, that would carry over to the high school.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to comment, I'm not sure when were you planning, when were the elementary kids going to go?
I think they're going during the day on, I don't know if it's Wednesday or Thursday, I don't remember what day, but they are going, they're doing it during the day. They obviously have the shows at night, but they're going to do one during the day, so the fifth graders can go over.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share, in my school, they do it, the elementary school comes over during the dress rehearsal.
Yeah,
So it's for
I'm not sure if
senior
it was Wednesday or
citizens and for-
Thursday.
And for those kids. But I know when they come to see it, they show them the stage and where it is and give them like, a little special tour of the things. And it does make a big difference because then when those kids are gonna go into, in my case, it's elementary school to middle school, but they wanna be in the play, they wanna be in the musical because they can remember they came in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade and the music teacher showed them the stage, which took, a very small amount of time, but a very big effect that they were able to see where it was and then see the performance like right after it.
Probably a very rewarding experience for the high schoolers as well, right?
Absolutely.
Rick, I'm not 100% positive, but I think that dress rehearsal is usually for anybody in the community that is,
The dinner and the show, we're doing that again this year.
no, but I mean, I think the dress rehearsal, I always thought they invited older people,
Yeah, they do.
The
That's what
senior
it is.
citizens.
Oh, okay, senior citizen, yeah.
Yes, yes.
So-
That's
The
Wednesday.
nighttime.
That's Wednesday night.
That's Wednesday night.
The night.
Wednesday night.
So-
That's the dress rehearsal. And Thursday's the first actual show. It's Thursday, Friday, a couple on Saturday, a couple on Saturday.
So the middle school coming up is not in conjunction with senior citizens?
The elementary students are coming up during the day, yes.
They'll be bussed,
Yes.
Okay.
like a little filter.
5th grade, they'll filter up, exactly.
Interesting. Thank you.
Any other general comments? New business?
Really old, because it's coming last month.
Okay, we're talking about hockey and old business, by the way. So new business.
I have one thing I shared with the board. I emailed everyone about the Passaic County Teen Arts Festival for the Performing Arts, sponsored by the Passaic County Board of Commissioners, the Historic Society, Cultural Society, for dance, theater, instrumental, and vocal performances. Just a reminder, the school registration is March 31st, so I don't know if we'll be participating, but if we are, it's a fun, interesting program. So.
We share it with all of our, we get it through the county office of education, so I've shared that information out with our schools.
And then each school registers on their own, or would we register as a district? Because on the form, it said it was like for individual schools within a district, so I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, I shared that with the principals, and I'll talk to them about registering for, trying to get some participation in that. But it was shared through the county office with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Any other new business?
I just have one quick thing, like for new business, and this is like a brand new thing, I'm actually going to it. The Garden State Esports Winter Finals for the whole state of New Jersey, the middle school and the high school for this esports, Saturday, April 2nd. It's at Rider University. It's completely free, and you get to watch the high school Rocket League finals, middle school Rocket League finals. The creator of this day is actually, he's one of the first coaches in middle school in the whole state to have an esports team in conjunction with Rutgers. There's a team chess finals, knockout finals, Overwatch semifinals. This is the first year that they're having it at Rider. It's completely free. And I know we've talked about it in the past with like the policies that just like getting letters for high school sports, now more and more high schools, you're getting a letter for esports, even though you're not on the court, it's becoming just as much, if not more popular, especially in the world. I mean, pre-COVID, they sold out Madison Square Garden for like an esports basketball game. They had 19,000 people there to watch people playing video games, which is
If you
terrific.
share that with me, I can share that with our esports club at the high school, Mr.
Definitely.
Yeah, I can share that with you.
And it's like a conference, it's free, there's no
We have an
cost.
esports club at the high school. I can share that with the
Okay.
advisor at the club, and I can share with the students.
Mr. Miller.
Mr.
Excellent.
Miller, yes.
Gonna do that right now.
Thank you.
I have just two quick things. Number one, this evening I asked Tamer if he would look into the feasibility of changing our email handles, as I find it to be cumbersome to remember. I still don't know it off the top of my head. I think students also struggle a bit. My own daughter does, my own son does. That at Hawthorne.k12, that nj. It's a lot. So he is going to look into that for us. That seems to be one of the first handles that was given, and we just haven't evolved away from it. And then the second thing, I did send out an email to the board asking if anybody would be available to march in the parade. Ms. Aaron Trout said she will. I know Dr. Merle cannot. If anybody else would be willing to march with us, Jen and I can hold up the, now I have 2 people, so we can hold up the sign. Children, family members, anybody welcome to come along with us that day. It's the 30th, Monday, obviously Memorial Day. Lineup is 12:30 and the parade is at 1:30. And on Wright Ave, they just tell us where to line up. So let me know and I will send in the form. I'll send in the form and say that we're going to go now that I have at least two people interested.
Just a quick comment on it would be helpful to get school like Gmail accounts, because there have been school districts and some are in Bergen County where people were using their own personal email address for board business, and it didn't work out well. So it would be helpful to like have an, instead of hawthorne.k12.us.com, like something that's easier to use, and then have everybody switch over and use that instead of Gmail accounts that we've created.
Right, and Mr. Reischer and I were on a long time ago when we used to have to change our password every 3 months, and that was something that was, we couldn't control it, so Mr. Brislin used to have to change it. It just was very cumbersome, so that's why we moved away from it and just started our own private ones, but absolutely, we can look into it. They exist for all of us, we don't use them, we use the other one.
Well, because we are a Google school now, I mean,
Right.
to create Gmail addresses could be possible.
Since you're writing a calendar, do you want to set next week's meeting?
Sure.
We're looking at our calendars anyway.
Mr. Sprito, you had offered several days.
Tuesday or Thursday next week.
Okay.
I believe it's still the 21st. I think it's next.
The 22nd is
22nd
Tuesday?
Tuesday, excuse me. 22nd or 24th. Either one of those days.
22nd, I have Diversity Alliance.
Oh, correct. We do. We could do it before though, but.
Is it just our
Just the
budget?
But if we have a budget discussion, it'll be a little longer, because the Diversity Alliance is at 7.
7, right?
So we could do it at 6.
Okay.
And then go right into the Diversity Alliance, or you can do it on Thursday, whatever works for the board.
Well, Dr. Morrell, would you, since you're on that committee, to come out twice, would that be preferable, or would you just want to come out on the one day?
Oh, it doesn't matter to me. I was just saying that I know on the 22nd we have Diversity Alliance.
That is scheduled for next Tuesday.
Right.
An hour is probably more than sufficient. I mean, more than anything, I think the benefit would be for the newer board members just to, ask questions. And
We can do a meeting at 6 and then have the Diversity Alliance at 7. That's when it's scheduled for 7.
Okay.
Does that work Tuesday for everyone?
The 22nd at 6 p.m.?
Works. Do it right in here?
Sure.
Okay, perfect.
Is that,
Thank you.
is that one that presented? I know this is
No, so this will just be,
approving it.
it'll just be a discussion of the budget, and then we'll approve the budget that night, and then obviously the budget hearing. The budget then gets approved by the board, it goes to the county for approval,
Okay, and then
comes
we-
back to us, and then we have the budget hearing, April 26th, I believe is the date of the budget hearing.
Okay.
That's the last, the public one.
That's the public where we present.
Got it, right.
details of the budget, yes.
So, right, so it's the 22nd because we are meeting together to discuss it as a whole
As a
board.
whole,
So it has to be a
and then
public
approve it.
meeting.
And then approve it, yes.
Got it.
Correct. All right, so
Okay.
22nd at 6 p.m. Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else for new business? Old business. Would anybody like to discuss their views on hockey?
I'll ask you a question. It's a co-op or a tri-op?
So, it was originally proposed to us as a co-op. In the letter today, they talked about a co-op or a tri-op from the athletic director. But that really doesn't impact us, what they decide to do, co-op, tri-op. They're the whole school. Lakeland would be the whole school. So they just want to know if we want to join them, whether it's a co-op, whether it's a tri-op.
So are they giving us first option?
They are. We must have some good kids, because they really want it.
I think it's
They
really
must
Mr.
have-
Costello.
They must have some impressive
And
stuff.
just remember that the athletic director is a Hawthorne guy,
Yes.
so he does have it in his heart.
Yes.
I mean, I have 2 quick comments on it. I'm glad that you've come the past couple of times, and I've been on the board for 10 years, and people that we've had come of all different things, sports and other things to get in the school district, the best way to do it is the way that you did it, to just come and present it, and we go through everything and see if it works. So thank you so much for coming. And if I read it correctly tonight, if we go in for 2 years, then there is zero cost, is that correct?
I was told today, last Friday, and confirmed today with the superintendent that there would be no cost to the families or the district. The families would still be required to transport their children to practices and games, but there would be no cost, no out-of-pocket cost.
That was the $250 to
Originally,
the
it was the
parents, the
$250.
Hockey Association parents.
But they're saying that that is not even on the table anymore.
No cost for 2 years?
Correct, that's what I was told.
They have a very good fundraising group up there, very good.
So how does something like that, if we play it forward after the 2 free years, then I know we can't look into a crystal ball, but then
We'd have
is
to
it
be
most likely
reevaluated.
then you take a look at the next whatever number of years, and if there is going to be a
It'd have
cost?
to be reevaluated, I would assume. To be honest with you, I've never done a co-op, but yes, my understanding is there'd have to be, after 2 years, you'd reevaluate the partnership. And depending on numbers, right, it could vary, but depending on numbers, that would determine how you move forward.
So we're not locked in.
Only for 2 years, as far as I'm understanding. That's why Mr. Sprito and Mr. Rizaka looked into other schools and what they're currently paying per student, and that was the information that they shared with us.
So here are some different thoughts also looking into this. So I'm appreciative that the first 2 years, the $250 per student from the Lakeland Ice Hockey Association, that had to be paid for the parents, has been removed. So basically what we're doing is if we're giving you feedback to whether or not to tell Lakeland, please proceed to go to the conference and whatever. I just want to let you know that just recently, Park Ridge and Emerson High School tried to do a co-op for ice hockey and they were denied. Let me give you some background on Lakeland based exactly on the information from the information that we got from Lakeland, which was also stated today by the public. Lakeland is a successful ice hockey program, very successful, I might add. It is also in the Big North Conference, which is also a very competitive league. Lakeland standings, they were in second place, so it's still a competitive program. Yes, they have had, based on this information, they have 41 hockey players 3 years ago, and they projected to have 15. So clearly, to your point about why you need a co-op is because you have a struggling program. But yet they still have a JV program. So I'm thinking when the league sees this is a very successful program. Yes, while they have declining numbers, they still have a JV team. And then they're looking to get more students. I'm wondering if the league will consider that it's trying, like, I'm concerned that the conference is going to say that you're already a historically strong program, and it's like not to our benefit that you maintain and perhaps even get improved like a powerhouse team. So I don't know. The reason why I'm giving the example about what just recently happened, because granted, while that was hockey and football are different in co-ops, it just gives you a sense of the thinking of the league and the points of co-ops, which historically was to really support schools that were struggling to maintain a program. So it's just something to consider, that even if we move forward, which Mr. Spirito said, there still is the very likelihood that we'll move forward and it will not be approved by either the conference or even NJSIA. And that just happened to Park Ridge and Emerson, from my understanding.
I mean, I think for our discussion tonight, though, that's a moot point, because
Yeah.
we're not voting on whether we can get into the league. We're just
Okay.
saying, it doesn't cost anything, we'd like to try, and hopefully it will work out, and we'll beat the deadline, and we'll get in. I totally understand your point, what
Yeah.
you're saying, but that wouldn't dissuade me from saying, no, let's not do it, because we're gonna add to an already powerful team. Like, we don't even
Yeah.
know if we're actually even gonna be accepted in it.
Right.
So, you know, my main concern was just the cost of it. If the
Yeah.
cost is $0 for
Yeah.
2 years, and we know the budget and how everything goes, and if you get students who you have to send out of the district and the whole thing, then, you know, we want to be very careful with that.
Right.
You know, honestly, I'm not so concerned if they win 1 game or 20 games.
Right,
Like,
right.
if we can send kids there and possibly you get kids in the future that go there instead of go to PCTI, it's just icing on the cake. It wouldn't be the reason for doing it, but.
Right. So the other question was to your point about the increase in cost. I too was happy to see that, that there was no cost to the parents. So you do a program for 2 years, then you have to reevaluate, which basically create a new contract to whoever is the participating teams, right?
Correct.
And then in that contract, that's where we can most likely anticipate, because I doubt it's going to be free 2 years from now, in terms of the associated costs. And you did give us cost from other schools that are participating in ice hockey.
Yes.
And then again, this is just more future thinking. 2 years were good, but then it's like, what happens after 2 years? So you're going to start a program that fiscally we may not be able to support after the initial first 2 years.
And that's the understanding going in. I mean, I don't think anybody's committing to anything other than 2 years. So, I mean,
Right, but if one of the arguments for having the ice hockey program is to maintain PCTI students who may possibly come, the possibility of that. There's that uncertainty then for that child who is looking at, let's just say again, I'm only going to PCTI for ice hockey. Forget about anything else. So I can either choose to stay in Hawthorne for 2 years. Hawthorne then after the 2 years decides we're not going to, the contract doesn't look good for us, we're not going to do it. Now we have a child who purposely chose to stay here in Hawthorne, not go to PCTI, to use, sorry for my language, they're stuck here in Hawthorne because PCTI does not accept students after freshman year.
Clear, no, I'm clear about that. But you would, the understanding would be that these parents are going into this relationship knowing that that's a possibility.
That's a possibility.
I mean, I think,
so they have to make that decision if they're
correct. I think
with
they're
that,
crystal
even
clear
if
about
it's
that.
2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's crystal clear that it's a 2-year commitment from our end, and you know, I don't think anybody's anticipating that it's going to be any longer than that.
Okay.
If it's not sustainable.
Got it. Okay.
Maybe our kids will play so well, it will be 10 years. I'm just saying, like, nobody has a crystal ball, like, we don't know.
I think we're
We don't know what's gonna happen, so.
I agree with you. Do you know the turnaround time for, once the application's put in? Do you know about how, I would just.
I just
need to
know
have
they
that information.
need to know this week. It's been made very clear to us, they need to know this week, and the sooner the better.
Okay.
That's been communicated very clearly to us.
Okay.
Are we allowed to comment? I'm sorry. No.
I think public comment is over.
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, Mike,
Sorry.
If we only have 2 players, let's just say, it'd still take us.
Yeah, like I said, we must have some quality players, because they know I want their kids. But I'm sorry, to your point, look, the reality is, there's going to be costs down the road, because one of the things they talked about in that letter, the original letter, was that in 2 years they want to buy new uniforms, and that we would be responsible to pay the cost. For now, they're going to put a patch on the uniform to signify that Hawthorne's part of it, but going forward, they buy new uniforms, they want us to contribute. So I think the reality is there's going to be costs. What those costs will be, there's no way to determine.
I'm okay with the first 2 years. It's just to me, is the sustainability of it. Like, I would hate to start a program and then 2 years from now, again, it's a different board 2 years from now, let's be honest with that, right? So we can start the program, I'm totally okay with that. It's just the sustainability of that. That's the part that's what makes me hesitant. Is the sustainability that you're starting a program for 2 years and then you may not have it, and then if you did have students who started freshman year, they may not stay. The other concern is, again, not only the sustainability of our fiscal part of it, is also the cost to the parents. I just happened to look up our economically disadvantaged students, and each year in our school performance report, it's continued to increase. In our last performance report, we have 30% of our students economically disadvantaged. So we are inadvertently, perhaps, again, I know I'm talking future. I get that. I'm okay with the 2 years going in. Let me be clear about that. I'm skittish that we're entering into a program that I can't sustain. It's like, all right, I got a really good check. I'm going to bet a car, and then once that money's gone, I can no longer afford that car. And that's my concern, that's my hesitation about it. And that we, by inadvertently creating a program that perhaps some of our families may not be able to afford some of those costs. Now, I don't doubt that the Lakeland Parent Association probably considers that and tries to help those type of families. Because we do that as a community here, that we know that we have field trips or some type of event, we support the family. I just want to be sure that we're just mindful of that. But I appreciate, as always, the board allowing me to express my different perspectives. I'm okay with moving forward with the 2 years, especially now that there's no cost and the transportation is still not favorable. But it's just the sustainability is what concerns me the most.
Mr. Sweeten, would you mind sharing some of the numbers that you and Mr. Mazzacca came up with, just for the public and just for maybe some board members who didn't read your notes?
Yeah, I mean, just, again, we spoke to 4 different districts in regard to their co-ops and typical costs, right? So, and it varies. In Paramus, Hackensack and Lyndhurst Co-op, and the district pays $1,000 per student. The school pays for the busing. They pay for 1 assistant coach, and the parents are still responsible for busing to the games only, not to practice. That's paid by the district. West Milford and Pequannock split the cost 50-50. All the costs, they split all the costs in half, which are significant. You know, they said it's about $40,000. Northern Valley Regional and West Milford, they charge $1,000 to $1,400 per student. They didn't, and parents are responsible for transportation. Fairlawn with Dumont and Bergenfield, same thing. Parents responsible for transportation. Parents buy the jersey and the equipment, and it's $1,000 per student. So that's just to give you an idea of what your typical cost.
Again, remember, this is a sport that would, if I'm not mistaken, I generally don't know. This would be one of our first sports that parents have to have out-of-pocket expenses, whereas all of our other high school sports, there is zero out-of-pocket, other than I buy a glove, or I think,
correct.
I mean, I say like a lacrosse stick or whatever.
I purchased all of his
Yeah,
gear.
but
Right.
they have equipment. You don't have to.
Right, because
You can. My son, I bought his.
Once again, was not informed by my child. So, it's okay.
No, my son,
We owned it anyway.
I bought his catcher's equipment.
Right,
I
right.
decided to purchase that.
But
so
you
he has
didn't
his
have
own.
to, that was
Right,
voluntary.
they have equipment, but I wanted him to have his own, I bought it. You know, but to your point, they have equipment that he could use if I couldn't afford to buy it.
I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. I just think it's very transparent to the parents. Like, they know what they're signing up for. I totally understand what you're saying. If it was, we'll do it for a year and then like see what happens. You know, if there was a little more gray area, but if it's going to be the parents and the student, parents' choice before their son or daughter or sons, like they know what they're walking into. So I totally understand what you're saying, and I know on the other end after 2 years, and obviously nobody knows what the cost is going to be, but I guess what I'm saying is it's not like a hidden cost like we knew was there and the parents knew was there. They just know they want their sons to stay in district and to play there for 2 years, and they know there's a chance. That's all, and they know there's a chance too after 2 years. It might be too cost prohibitive.
And as far as the sustainability, in an ideal world, any program that you institute, you want to keep perpetually. But it happens all the time. Academic programs go away. With the cuts that we have coming up, some things are going away. So nothing that gets instituted has that promise of permanence at that point.
Yes, but hockey is still one of the more expensive sports compared to the other sports.
But they're cognizant.
I'm not talking about parent part though, even on the school side of things.
Sure, but again, it's a 2-year commitment from my end.
I'm okay with the 2-year commitment.
Yeah,
I'm just.
You keep rehashing it, I hear you, but the sustainability of it,
Well, if we're playing hypotheticals, Mrs. Brito, correct me if I'm wrong. Let's say, for example, we use the West Milford Pequannock model for now. The district has to lay out $20,000 to sustain the hockey program. But at the flip side of that, the hockey program has retained 7 students from the middle school. What's the cost difference for the savings by sending them to PCTI? So that's another hypothetical that we have to look at too. So I think
Well, that's something after 2 years, you have an idea of how much
Absolutely.
students you've kept, right? Because out there is obviously a cost, we know that.
Are you still going to be able to do a survey to the middle school kids just to see not only ice hockey, their
Yeah,
interests,
sports in
but a
general.
variety of different
Yes.
sports?
Yes.
And I have requested that the exit interviews with Ms. Basalone, it include now what sports they're playing at PCTI, and if that was a driving factor in their exit. Because as of now, we're just asking academics.
I think that would be a really great data point to have as we continue to get a better sense of why students are electing to go to PCTI.
I'd also like to just interject briefly. I'm not sure if you all had a chance to read the emails that Mr. Srito had sent us, but this co-op also includes the possibility for girls to play on the team.
Yes.
I thought that was cool.
Well, guarantee have one, just so you know.
Which is very cool. Which is very cool.
Yes.
Just one last thing on like that, I mean, and also, you know, I think it's important to keep in mind that the parents for this program have been coming to us for, you know, over a number of years, so it's not the first time they come out here. And every time they've come up, to their credit, it's been with that demeanor, so, which is appreciated.
I want to piggyback on what Alex just said. I'll date myself. I'll tell you, I'm 56. I graduated in 1984 here. Mr. Appaluccio was an English teacher. He was trying to get hockey in Hawthorne that long. We did not have a Sun Devils, and I'm not for or against it. I'm really still up in the air about it, but we did not have a program that has the amount of kids coming up, you know, through the system. So just wanted to kind of piggyback that. It's been a long time in the making. And I just want to speak to the character of the AD. I haven't seen him in over 30 years, but he is, a genuine, nice guy. He'll do anything for you. He still bleeds blue, because we all do when we grow up in this town. No matter where we go, you kind of still gravitate back to, your roots. I do know there's a lot of things up in the air, and we can't even estimate, even 2 years from now, when we know the number of students that we have there, how many of them would have actually gone to PCTI. Right. But since I have the soapbox in front of me, I'm just going to kind of reiterate to the public that a lot of people don't understand why PCTI is an issue, because it's really not a bad school. It's not like we are against the district, and you may be wondering, well, how are we going to save money if we keep kids, here in the hockey program? Just a ballpark number, we're talking about $12,000 roughly in cost per student. And then we have busing, which probably puts the total somewhere, I guess, around $14,000 per student. So what that means is it's not equal, like we're paying the same exact money at a student going there. Is that money actually comes out of our budget. So every year, the state's planning on giving them more money to expand. The more money that they get and the bigger they grow, the more difficult it is for districts like Hawthorne and every other district in Passaic County to maintain a local education. So for 3,700 students or whatever that might be up there, the entire Passaic County is struggling and sending $14,000 per student. Millions of dollars are going up there. And yes, they say they haven't raised our tuitions, in years, but they haven't given us any relief either. They keep getting more and more money from the county and from the state to grow, and we keep struggling further. So it's just something that the public needs to be aware of, because I know for a fact every time I have this conversation one-on-one, the reaction I get is, wow, I didn't know that. So how much money do we have estimated going up there?
Well, it's 164 students next year, so it's $2 million.
So you guys can do the math, because I can't think that
I
straight.
think it's just under $2 million.
But again, it's anybody up here and anybody in this district, it's not about not liking that program. It's not being on a level playing field. If we want to implement a new class, we have to hire a teacher, pay them benefits, buy books and materials and computers to add another class, which means it's more money to taxpayers, when they feasibly are more like a business, and they can actually add a class that attracts more students and make money, because now they're attracting more money than it actually costs them. It's not sustainable for districts like us. So if we could, keep a few students here any way we can, whether it's through the arts and the theater, or through a new hockey program. I'm leaning more towards, I would like to give it an opportunity, since 2 years from now, we'll have to reevaluate it again, and I may or may not be here, I don't know. But I think that every year going forward, we have to remind parents that this is not, a guarantee that we're going to keep this program in place. And if they're willing to put their kids out there and give them a shot, then I think we shouldn't really hold them back. Now I'm just going to make a funny comment about Kevin, because the fact that he took a mop in a soda can in 2014, he could have grew up in the 70s when we used to take the broom apart, take the broom handle and a pinky bowl and go play somewhere. So the initiative you show is awesome, and I hope you do well in hockey and all your endeavors. And I think I had to stand long enough, so I'll pass it along for now. Thank you.
Quick comment. I graduated a few years after Mr. Palouse, but 20 years ago, many of my friends and classmates were championship Sun Devil hockey players. And if you look, like my age group, a lot of my classmates played and really enjoyed it. And this was not even an option at the time, or an opportunity like this where you mentioned where the stars have kind of aligned. I am for it, but to Dr. Morell's point, I do understand that there are a lot of unknowns. A question that I have, Mr. Yost, I don't know, he seems to be a friend to everyone and a likable Hawthorne Blue Bears guy. I wonder, just an idea, is there any way to have a conversation to discuss a future plan beyond the 2 years? I mean, I know we're going to be hopefully agreeing for 2 years, but is there a way to talk about a reasonable plan if we don't know? We don't know who's going to sign up, how many are going to sign up, but some sort of plan in place, because to be blindsided by 40,000 and 80,000, whatever it could be for a sports program, I'm sure, what we can hope, that he would understand that. Maybe we can create or devise some type of agreement beforehand. I don't know, just an idea, but that's all. I would not have played ice hockey.
Yeah, I think my understanding of the NJSIA rules is that you can only have a 2-year, it has to be revisited every 2 years.
And they need to know by, just like a discussion, I guess it wouldn't be official, and I guess they need to know because the New Jersey, the applications due April 15th, so we have, they have roughly a month. So.
Well, the kids have to understand too, there's no guarantee that they're going to start. Right now, if the program's down to 15, players, obviously they're going to play because the amount of shifts that, that they run is going to warrant more players. But if they do this, this program with 3 different schools and they continue to get better and better, it might attract more of their own kids to go out for hockey, which is going to obviously mean our kids are going to have to step up and do the best they can do, or they're going to be, riding the pines or not making the team at all. But again, we can't look down the road and say, that's going to happen. So, again, I talk a lot, I drink a lot of coffee.
That's high school sports.
Yeah, exactly. But now we're talking about another community that it has a really good program, right? And it had a lot of players, and now it doesn't, which is why they're reaching out. But that tide can turn again, and you just, like anything, competition in life, it's a good life lesson.
Yeah, maybe it can even improve other sports, like hockey players play football, baseball, other sports, and it keeps a few athletes. I mean, I was an athlete here in Hawthorne, I'm all for it, but just my opinion.
12-year varsity letter person right there.
Any other comment before I say my piece? So the last time, Mr. Reicher and I have been on this board for a long time. I know it's shocking, we look so young, but the last time this conversation happened was the year that we were on, and the rec lacrosse team came to us in a very respectful manner, such as yourselves, and they were asking us to start a team here with a coach, and all of the things that were required. And little did I know that my own son would end up on that team 10 years later, but I don't think that we really realize the savings that has brought. 3 students that are freshmen right now on that same lacrosse team would not have had that team not existed. And that is $168,000 over the course of 4 years. That's 3 students. So, to Mr. Carr's point, I think that for 2 years we pay nothing, and even if we end up having to pay something in years 3 and 4, when you look at the impact 2 students leaving the district can have, because you're not looking at a single year, you're looking at a 4-year commitment of tuition. I think that it's pretty profound. And again, we don't know the numbers of people that have stayed for lacrosse or other sports that we have, because we don't ask them, hey, are you staying because we have lacrosse? It's just not the conversation we have. But I can tell you, I know for a fact, 3 people are on that team and are not somewhere else because it exists. So, you know, my personal opinion individually is that we would be foolish not to try this. There is no cost to us. You know, I think that we owe it to the community. They have been so respectful and kind and diligent on their end. And, you know, I know that there's some concern, well, what if so-and-so wants to co-op? But that hasn't happened. You know, we have it, and as Mr. Costello said, the stars have aligned. And it's happening now. And I fear that we would regret it. We wouldn't really even fully understand the impact of us not doing it if we didn't do it. So, Mr. Sprito, I'm not sure what you need from us.
I just have one follow-up comment.
I think you will make a motion.
With the lacrosse, and I'm sure it's the same with the hockey, at the lacrosse at that time, it wasn't just for the sports. All the top academic kids were relieved that were going to PCTI happened to be playing lacrosse.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's similar with hockey. So both of those things, you know, tied in.
You're not losing just the athlete. You're losing the whole child. And we are a community here, and we pride ourselves on being a community. And I think that's what makes us us. So that is a very good point. You're losing the whole kid, the student and the athlete, the person in the play and the person who does other things. So that's a really great point.
Thank you.
So Dr. Moreau has suggested that we make a motion.
Right, so I don't know, I'll defer to Ms. Ambrose, but my understanding is it's kind of like, again, another walk-on thing where we make a motion to vote, is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay, so.
What section would we put it under?
Now, buildings and grounds.
I would say perhaps finance and administration.
Finance and administration, I would agree with that.
All right, so I'll start it off, okay?
Okay.
I would like to make a motion, I don't know, I'm making this up, so it's not gonna sound proper English. Okay, so I would like to make a motion for the board to have the superintendent reach out to Lakeland to move forward to express interest in entering into a co-op. Ms. Ambrose, I hope you're making this sound good. Enter into a co-op with Lakeland Regional High School for ice hockey for the over the next 2-year period.
Right.
So that would be 22-23 school year and the 23 and 24 school year.
Yes.
For us to move forward in submitting a co-op, possibly tryout, we don't know, agreement. That's the motion I make.
Second.
Oh.
Everybody's second.
Yeah. Mr. Carr and Ms. Aaron Trout at the same time.
Ready? Rock, paper, scissors.
Rock, paper, scissors.
I think Mr. Carr just got to Ms. Aaron Trout. Discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Costello,
Yeah.
Mr. Tankos, for being the official recruiters of Hawthorne Hockey. Congratulations and good luck.
And just real quick point, about the money, I somehow got volunteered, I'm gonna help them raise money, so it doesn't, hammer everybody in 2 years. So.
I'm sure you will.
I would also like to thank Mr. Costello and the family members who are here to express your interest. I also, for those of you who have been watching, it's more of a kudos to my board members that we can speak with each other and never feel any discomfort providing a different point of perspective, and it's done so respectfully. And I think that in alone also shows an example to our community that we can engage in conversations where we disagree, but do so respectfully. So it's a part of the discussion that we had. I just want to thank the board members, but even our public, that even as we had this conversation, I definitely felt some heat in the back of my head with some eyes. I wasn't looking at you, but I felt it, but it was still always respectful, and it's from a point of care, and I understand that, and you're passionate, so I respect that. So that's my part.
Any other discussion? I would like to thank the community for speaking up. We have nobody that comes to these meetings, so we don't usually know what the community wants, and unless one of us has another intel source. This is absolutely, as Mr. Sprito said, the appropriate channel, and we thank you for coming and your commitment, your dedication to the community. And Mr. Sprito, this is sort of unique in that we normally don't go rogue and add things to the agenda after it's been formed. I just want to make sure before we vote that I don't want to put you on the spot, but that you are comfortable with going forward with this.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure you'd say no in front of me speaking. I couldn't say yes unless I knew that you were comfortable. You can blink once if you're not, and then we can work something out. Send me a signal. I just want to make sure that you're comfortable going forward.
Yes.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Shortway?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Ms. Aarontrout?
Yes.
Dr. Morel?
Yes.
Mr. Paluce?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I promise you will never regret this.
I know where you live, Mr. Cousins.
Yeah. Don't tell anybody.
He did write it down. We all know where you live now.
We know where the break is at.
Please feel free to come down anytime. Is this meeting over? Or can I
I'm
just-
going to say a few words and then it will be over.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Be it resolved that the Hawthorne Board of Education convenes an executive session to discuss exempt matters pertaining to personnel and board vacancy interviews. Be it further resolved, the anticipated executive session will be for 45 minutes in duration and the public action may or may not be taken. Be it further resolved that the minutes of executive session will be made available upon determination by the board that disclosure of the minutes will not be detrimental to any right or interest of the board and need for confidentiality no longer exists. Motion to go into private.
Motion.
Second.
Second by Dr. Morales. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Ms. Aarontrout?
Yes.
Dr. Morel?
Yes.
Mr. Paluce?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Mr. Shortway?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes. Now let's vote.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Welcome back. I'm calling for a motion to nominate a candidate for the BOE vacancy.
Motion. Second.
We need a motion to, who you want to nominate.
There has to be a
Yeah.
nomination.
It's a motion, so my motion is to nominate Marco Totero to fill in the vacancy we have.
Second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Palouse. It was quiet. Thank you.
All right, yeah.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Clavijo.
Yes.
Ms. Erentraut.
Yes.
Dr. Morel.
Yes.
Mr. Palouse.
Yes.
Mr. Reicher.
Yes.
Mr. Shortway.
Yes.
Mr. Carr.
Yes.
Mrs. Goff.
Yes. Congratulations, Mr. Totaro. Welcome back. A motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cleo, second by Mr. Carr.
So
Roll
Ms.
call.
Erentraut, we're going to do it quick.
Yes.
Dr. Morel.
Yes.
Mr. Palouse.
Yes.
Mr. Reicher.
Yes.
Mr. Shortway.
Yes.
Mr. Carr.
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo.
Yes.
Mrs. Goff.
Yes. All right, bud. Next meeting is the 12th of April, starts at 6, oh no.